There's a currency that runs your life. It's not money, it's not time, it's dopamine. It's the biological fuel for focus, motivation, and joy. But in the modern world, most of us are spending it faster than we can earn it. Every time you pick up your phone, every time you scroll, every time you multitask, you're borrowing happiness from tomorrow. This is called dopamine debt. It's a state where your brain's reward system has been burned out by overstimulation. You aren't just lazy or distracted, you're biologically broke. Here are the 8 signs that you're deep in debt. The morning fix. Let's say your alarm goes off. You haven't even stretched yet. What's the first thing you do? You immediately reach for your phone. You check your emails, you scroll through social media, you watch a 15-second video. You flood your unready brain with high-intensity information before your feet even hit the floor. You're bypassing your brain's natural boot-up sequence. You're supposed to drift from sleep into creativity and finally into relaxed focus. By grabbing your phone, you force your brain to skip the calm and jump straight into high-alert anxiety. This is dangerous because you're setting yourself up to be reactive rather than creative. That frantic feeling you carry all day, you invited it in the moment you opened your eyes. And now you can't function without that morning jolt of digital adrenaline. The skimmer. This is the death of deep focus. You sit down to read a book or a long article, you get through the first 2 sentences, and then your eyes physically jump. You scan for keywords, you skip the paragraphs, you feel a restless itch to move on, even though you haven't actually absorbed anything. You tell yourself, this is boring, this is too slow, I'll just get the gist of it. You treat content like fast food, consuming it rapidly without digesting it. Every time you jump from one tab to another, or from reading to checking a notification, your brain burns energy trying to reorient itself. You end the day feeling exhausted, not because you did a lot of work, but because your brain ran a marathon just trying to keep up with your own eyes. Here's the irony. The people who seem to accomplish the most aren't the ones frantically jumping between tasks. They're the ones who can sit still with one thing long enough to actually finish it. You've lost that ability. You're skimming through your entire life, never actually living any of it. The twitch. Do you know what silence feels like? For someone in dopamine debt, silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like pain. The twitch is the inability to endure even 5 seconds of boredom. You're at a red light, you check your phone. The microwave has 10 seconds left, you check your phone. There's a lull in the conversation, you pull out your device. You think you're just filling time, but what you're really doing is suppressing a vital brain system called the default mode network. This is the part of your brain that only activates when you're bored. It's responsible for your best ideas, your long-term planning, and your self-reflection. By constantly stimulating yourself, you're keeping this network offline. And here's what's truly tragic. The things you're running from, boredom and silence, are where all your answers live. But you'll never hear them over the constant noise you're pumping into your brain. The autopilot. This is the strangest and scariest sign. It's the disconnection between wanting something and actually liking it. Neuroscience shows that the chemical for craving is different from the chemical for pleasure. In a healthy brain, they work together, but in a debt-ridden brain, they split. You find yourself scrolling Instagram for an hour. You're not laughing, you're not inspired, you're not learning. You might even feel gross or annoyed. You're a ghost in the machine, compulsively chasing a reward that gives you no satisfaction. Here's the irony. Actual addicts at least get high. They at least experience a moment of euphoria that makes the whole cycle make sense. But you're addicted to something that doesn't even make you happy. You're stuck in an endless loop of pursuit with no payoff whatsoever. You keep pulling the slot machine lever, not because you're winning, but because you've forgotten how to walk away from the machine. The tolerance trap. Imagine your brain has a scale, pleasure on one side, pain on the other. When you flood your brain with cheap dopamine from video games, sugar, and constant notifications, the scale tips wildly towards pleasure. But your brain loves balance, so to fix the tilt, it doesn't just go back to the middle, it slams down hard on the side of pain. So now you don't scroll to feel happy, you scroll just to feel normal. You need a podcast playing, a game open, and a text conversation happening at all times just to keep the anxiety at bay. You're not having fun. You're just medicating the withdrawal. Simple joys like a sunset, a quiet meal, or a conversation don't register anymore. You've become numb to the real world because the digital world has been screaming at you for too long. You're biologically rich in stimulation, but emotionally bankrupt. The night owl. This is a phenomenon known to psychologists as revenge bedtime procrastination. It happens when you have zero control over your day, so you try to regain control at night. You're physically exhausted, your eyes are burning. You know you have to wake up in 6 hours, but you refuse to go to sleep. Instead, you stay up scrolling, watching, and clicking until 2 a.m. You tell yourself, "This is my only free time. I deserve a break." But biologically, you're engaging in a chemical war. Your body is flooded with adenosine, the molecule that creates sleep pressure. By staring into a blue light screen, you're forcing your brain to ignore that pressure. You're artificially spiking your dopamine to fight off your own exhaustion. You aren't relaxing. You're stealing energy from tomorrow. You feel like you're taking back power, but you're actually giving it away. Tomorrow you will wake up exhausted, scattered, and even more dependent on stimulation. You're not fighting for freedom. You're digging yourself deeper into debt. The doom scroller. Have you ever unlocked your phone just to check the weather and then suddenly looked up to realize 45 minutes have passed? You have no memory of what you just saw. You didn't learn anything. You didn't laugh. You just disappeared. This is called dissociative scrolling. It's a mild hypnotic state. When the dopamine hits are rapid and unpredictable, like a slot machine, your brain enters what's called a ludic loop. It stops recording new memories because the input is too repetitive to be worth saving. You think you're relaxing, but in reality, you're deleting chunks of your own life. You're trading your limited time on Earth for a stream of content that you won't even remember an hour from now. Think about that. You get a finite number of hours on this planet, and you're spending them in a fugue state, watching content specifically engineered to keep you watching, created by algorithms that know your weaknesses better than you do. You're not the customer, you're the product, and you're selling your time, your attention, and your consciousness for absolutely nothing in return. The crash. It's the emotional price of the debt. When you finally put the phone down, when the screen goes black and the house is quiet, how do you feel? Do you feel rested, or do you feel hollow, irritable, and anxious? This is called anhedonia, the medical inability to feel pleasure. Because you've overused your reward circuitry, you've burned it out. You've become numb to the real world because the digital world has been screaming at you for too long. You're biologically rich in stimulation, but emotionally bankrupt. You look at people who seem content with simple things, reading a book, taking a walk, having a conversation, and you think they're just wired differently. They're not. They just haven't destroyed their ability to feel. Their reward system still works at normal volumes. Yours has been cranked to 11 for so long that anything below a 9 feels like silence. So, how many of these 8 signs did you recognize? If it was a lot, I have good news. Dopamine debt is not a life sentence. Your brain is plastic. It can heal. It just needs a break. The first step is simply noticing the urge. The next time you're at a red light and you feel the twitch, catch yourself. The next time you wake up, give yourself 20 minutes of silence before that morning fix. The next time you can't stop scrolling even though it's making you miserable, remember the autopilot. Your feelings aren't facts. Your cravings aren't commands. You're not broken. You're just overcharged. And the moment you stop spending your focus, you'll start to get it back. It won't be comfortable at first. For the first few days, you'll feel restless, anxious, maybe even angry. That's not a sign you're doing it wrong. That's withdrawal. That's proof the debt was real. But if you can endure the boredom, if you can sit with the discomfort, your brain will reset. The simple joys will come back. The sunsets will look brighter. Conversations will feel meaningful again. You'll remember what it's like to be a person instead of just a reaction machine. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button. We break down the biology behind the things you feel but can't quite explain. Thanks for watching. And remember, you're not lazy. You're in debt, but debt can be paid.